Welcome to Backyards and Bevvies. Grab your favorite bevy, pull up a chair, and enjoy the ride. Hey, B&B fam. This podcast is sponsored to you by BetterHelp, H-E-L-P. Is there something getting in the way of your happiness? I know when I traveled the world, I had many days where BetterHelp's worldwide service of licensed professional therapists could have helped me speak to someone no matter where I was in the world about whatever was happening with my life, and with zero judgment. With their ability to match me with a therapist that best fits me, I know my mental health would have been way better back then. Believe me, I needed it. But I'm here to share a way for you to take back control of your mental health by telling you about BetterHelp's awesome services they have for you to talk with a pro about your life through their app or just online. Whether it is a video session or some simple messaging, their team is here to help. I went to check out the app for myself just to see how easy it was to use, and after a series of questions, I was told I would be able to start matching with a therapist in under 48 hours. And what is super rad is that it's affordable and they even offer financial aid too. So come join the 2 million users that have already been helped and gain back control of your mental health by visiting betterhelp.com/backyards for 10% off your first month. Remember, BetterHelp is therapy done securely online. Don't forget to use the special code BACKYARDS and let BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, help you to start living a happier life today. 1, 2, 3, and we're live.
Woo!
Hey.
Hi, everybody.
Good morning. Welcome to your midweek treat.
Backyards and Bevvies.
Backyards and Bevvies showing up.
Woo!
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
You know we drop it at 1 a.m.?
Yeah.
I wonder if anybody ever actually listens to us at 1 a.m.
I don't know. But that's when it comes out if you want to be like the first one.
I'm definitely not up at 1 a.m.
No. Me
anymore.
Either. Definitely
my life is changing a lot. You know, my last time being up that late was at the Garth show, and
we were up until
too late,
2 or 3 that night. That was real late.
It was a little bit of a struggle bus the next day.
Yeah.
But I think that's like I don't know. I guess having a child and one on the way and all those things. It's not that I don't want to stay up that late. It hurts so much more the next day.
Even if you're not drinking, like I'm obviously not drinking right now, but I was just exhausted. The next day.
Exhausted.
Yeah.
So we're not going to talk about how exhausted we are.
No, although I still am. Growing a human is hard work.
Is it?
It is. Yeah, it is.
I've had a few food babies, but I've never had a...
Real babies are different. Totally different. They take all of your energy and all of your water. I'm like dehydrated all the time.
Yeah.
Even though all I do is crush water.
Crush water.
Crush it. I got a facial yesterday for the first time, which shout out to Katja Billups at Catalyst Beauty in Nashville.
Nice.
Like total game changer. But she was even like, oh my gosh, your skin is so dry. And I was like, I literally drink water all day and put on all the like perfect face cream to help with those things.
All the perfect.
Baby takes it all.
Yeah, I mean, he's like me. He needs a lot of attention. I'm just staring at this little red light over here. Yep, we're still recording.
Okay.
I put a little screen
You just
up there.
called her a he.
Oh, she. Sorry.
She. There's a she in there.
She.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was doing like 3 things in my brain at once. So today, I thought that it was really interesting because, you know, like the more that the show grows, the more that we chat to not only like our friends that listen, but then we chat with other people and so on and so forth. And I ended up chatting with a friend on Instagram or something like that, and we were just talking about, you know, like life in general, like catching up real quick. But at one point, she had brought up this trial that's going on
with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
Yeah, and I've seen it like in the news feed that I scroll in the morning, and I've seen the memes. The memes
everywhere.
I mean, I think I've gotten more enjoyment from the memes because I didn't really know what was going on. Right? I just kind of knew that this girl actress was telling the world about this guy actress that she was married to, I'm assuming.
This guy actor, yes.
Guy actor.
So to make a very long story short, basically they were married.
Yeah.
And when they started to go through their divorce, Amber Heard she wrote an article that ended up getting published in a major newspaper. I can't remember which one. I haven't been following like super closely along with the trial because I really feel like it's not any of my business. But since it's in the public eye and it is all over the place, you really can't escape it. But so this article that was written, it did not ever specifically name Johnny Depp as the person she was talking about.
Yeah.
But the way that it was written, and this is what Johnny Depp is suing her for, he says the way that it was written made it very clear and obvious that the article was about him. And in the article, she talks about like domestic violence and claims that like he beat her and all of this stuff. And so he is suing her for $50 million for defamation because he lost like every movie deal he had. He lost Pirates of the Caribbean, Fantastic Beasts, like every single thing that he had going on. He was pretty much at the peak of his career when all of this started to go down. Every deal except his Dior Sauvage cologne deal, everybody abandoned him.
Okay.
Before there was any evidence or anything like that. And so he's suing her for $50 million for defamation, and she is countersuing him, saying that by suing her, he's calling her a liar. So in turn, he's defaming her. So she's countersuing him for $100 million.
Oh, wow.
So that's what's going on. The crazy thing is that like no matter what happens in this trial, once the jury makes their decision, one of the two of them
has to pay.
Has to pay.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's a big check.
Big check.
I would want it written on one of those like fake,
like a giant,
like a giant, and then I would stand outside the courthouse with
like
it. It doesn't matter who wins. Like
that would be something that would happen with this trial because it is so over the top.
Yeah.
I mean, the stuff that has come out of it is crazy.
Yeah.
Like she pooped in their bed.
Yeah. Well, okay. So this.
Crazy.
So when my friend was asking me this stuff, or when we were talking about it, and she brought it up, I was like, I don't know. Suddenly, it became. Like how the world works now. Alexa listens to you, and
oh my gosh, everything listens. To
Next
you.
thing
So
I knew,
creepy.
like it was all in my life. Right?
Yeah,
and whatever, fine. Like I get that it is something that is interesting, but then something deeper started to happen. All of a sudden, I started to notice so many other cases around it, and I started thinking, I was like, wait, like this is a real thing, though. This isn't just like a Johnny Depp and Amber Heard one-time deal. Someone's talking smack about someone and the other person is saying that they're lying. This is like something I think that's like really, really, really a big problem in the world right now is that it's so easy. So aside from them, I don't know any more of it, so I really can't go into depth about them.
Yeah, we're not going to like choose sides or really even talk much about it because we don't know enough about it.
And I think that I would just add to the chaos if I said anything one way or the other.
Yeah.
But I do think one of them should stand outside of a courthouse with a big check.
Whoever wins.
I'm not even kidding you. I would have like confetti cannons. I'd have the whole
It would
shebang.
not surprise me if something like that happens. It would not.
But this conversation is the slandering or defamation of character, the Yelp stuff, the Google ad. I mean, it's everywhere now. You have a chance to talk smack about people, regardless of if it's true or not. And I personally have I've had my own attack. Granted, I also have not lived the most moral life imaginable, but I thought that it would be interesting to talk about this now because I am shifting my thoughts. I'm shifting my heart. I'm shifting the way that I approach things now. And I think that if I would have done it at an earlier age, it would have saved me a long, harder experience going through some of that stuff because there was stuff that was said that was like, okay, that's true.
Right.
I can't argue that.
Right. But then there was other stuff that was said, and it's like, okay, that never happened.
Well, yeah,
that never lashing out at me because you're mad or you're hurt,
and that's fine.
And that's the dangerous part.
That is the dangerous part right there. Is that it's not that I didn't do something wrong. It's that now someone is taking it to an extreme. And though I'm just a normal person, I don't have $100 million in my bank account, and there's no way I could write that check tomorrow, or maybe. Well, I'm not gonna say
maybe
never,
one day.
but the chances of that, like going through something like that. Now, think about their legal fees that they have to pay and all the stuff. I mean, think about the there's just so much more to it now. You know, like both careers are basically canned.
Well, think about
no one's going to trust
kids.
Either one of them.
Like he has kids, who have to read about this in the news and hear about it at school, and you know, I mean, it affects, regardless of whichever one of them is telling the truth, or maybe both of them are telling some truth and not all truth, which is most likely the case.
Yeah.
Because it's never all one person's fault in any situation.
What it is, I'm not going to say it's 50-50, because there are times where there's circumstances that are just out of control. Yeah. Where someone goes too far and they end up really doing something that, and that's not what this conversation is about, because there is those cases. Like, for sure. I'm not ever going to say that, oh, it's always 50-50. No. There are definitely times where people take things upon themselves and take it too far.
Yes.
But I'm also going to go out on a limb and say that a lot of times both parties in a situation like this, especially if they got to the marriage part, they got to the honeymoon part, they got to all these stages in life, there was definitely agreements in a lot of stuff.
Right.
So you can't just sit there and be like, oh, he blah, 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 blah. You know, it's like, no, they, like, somewhere in this, you probably said, okay, let's hang out this way. And I say hang out this way because I don't know what led up to a poop in a bed.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I mean?
I saw the headline. I have no idea what
exactly. That's all about. And I'm sure that they're having to go through all this in court. But you did say it right. Like, now his whole family has to read about this. Her whole family has to read about this. Friends. And then all of a sudden you're put in a really weird spot, because now you're not an honest person in a way. Well, you're looked at that way because, like, well, I don't know who to believe.
Right. Well, I mean, especially something like this happening in the public eye, where, I mean, the whole world literally is paying attention to this, because it's drama and people are attracted to drama, especially if it makes their lives look better by looking down on somebody else.
Oh, that's so, I mean, but that is, I think, a lot of what is happening in these cases where you have someone telling the world about someone else.
Right.
It's like, well, yeah, maybe we both did something really bad together, but now you're the one that is kind of maybe not liking what happened, and now you're going to go and paint me in a bad light because you're worried I might go paint you in a bad light first.
Well, and two, it's also, you know, in some cases, your emotions can absolutely warp facts for you to the point where you actually believe what you think happened versus what actually happened.
Yeah.
You know, like, that makes it even more confusing is when you're in a situation and you're so hurt, or you think you saw something and your brain then ends up playing tricks on itself.
Well, maybe, yes, I totally agree. But isn't that why, like if something happens, you're supposed to instantly write things down, right? Because that's the closest you will be to that memory ever again, correct?
I guess so.
I mean, like, that's why, like, in a police report, they, like, are really trying to get as many details as possible right away, because it's the minute you have alone time, then all of a sudden you start to process potentially what you saw or what you think you saw. Or
well, it's fact versus opinion.
Well, then, I mean, then your nerves are starting to loosen, or maybe then you're like, oh, man, I need to go, like, have a drink. And then all of a sudden you start putting yourself in. You start putting things in the way of what actually occurred. And so, yeah, I can totally think back on a few memories of myself and be like, no, it didn't go down that way. And someone's like, nah, it did.
It did, yeah.
And there's a little bit of embarrassment, though. And so then all of a sudden you now fight it. I could never do that.
Yeah.
There's no way I could ever do that.
Right.
I think the one thing that everybody forgets is that, well, for one, we're all human, so none of us are perfect.
Right.
I think the other thing people forget is, I think the vast majority of us will never say it, but we have dark sides to us. We have things that are internally inside of us, whether it's a product of where we grew up or just hereditary genes, or, you know, there's things I see inside myself that, like, I'm like, oh, that's from my mom.
Right.
I'm like, you know, no offense to her and who she is, but I never liked that at that point in my life, and now I'm seeing things that I'm like, I should stray away from that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So my point to that is that I think a lot of times in situations, like you said, in the heat of the moment, your emotions start to rise and things come out in you that you may never have thought would come out, but they do.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you become that person you never wanted to be.
Yeah.
But
like unintentionally.
But I think, though, that there's one other key thing that people forget to do is maybe say, like, wow, I'm sorry. That went a little too far.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I took that too far.
Yeah.
Because then you give that person, like, okay, like, maybe they didn't mean to and it was an accident, or maybe we were, like, having fun to a certain point and then all of a sudden it crossed the line.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that apology could have been given in certain cases with people. I can even look back on times where I'm like, man, maybe an apology at that moment in time would have saved so much more heartache down the road.
For sure. Or just telling the truth.
Well, honesty.
The truth hurts sometimes, but it's better
to get it out.
To be honest in that moment and get it out and be clear.
Yeah.
Versus to tiptoe around things. Because if you don't talk about things, you formulate your own opinion and the other person formulates their own opinion. Mm-hmm. And they believe that opinion is fact. Yeah. Because there's been no discussion.
Well, the demon inside of you that caused you to act a certain way, right? Mm-hmm. If you, like, can start to acknowledge that and be like, whoa, I totally went to a dark place there. Mm-hmm. My bad. Well, then all of a sudden it's out on the table too, right? So you're like, hey, that wasn't cool.
There are some things I obviously need to work through.
We need to work on this together. Because let's just take the marriage side of this, mm-hmm. right? Like, you've dated, you've gone through what I would assume is some time together. Mm-hmm. Let's just say even some hard times together. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, okay, like, let's do death till death do us part. Mm-hmm. You know, health, sickness, everything. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a big deal right there. Like, if you're willing to go that far, then you should be willing to also allow things that are not perfect, right? Because perfect is a hard term that people forget.
There is no such thing as perfection.
Exactly.
There's just not.
So a perfect marriage is...
the pressure we put on ourselves that makes everything so much harder.
Yeah. So
there's no need. It's completely unnecessary.
So to be honest from the beginning and say, like, hey, we're probably going to go through some really rough shit.
Guaranteed you're going to. Guaranteed.
Like, that's a real thing. So let's just be honest and say, like, when they are brought up, like you and me, mm-hmm. we go through we've gone through, and I'm sure we'll continue to go through rough stuff. And it's not because it's just
the nature of committing to another person who is different than you.
100%.
You're not going to agree all the time. People make mistakes.
Well, for one, I would never want to marry myself. So you're a freaking gem. Well, but that's the point, though. Is like, I don't want to marry myself. I don't want to marry anything close to myself. I wanted to marry something different. Now, there are qualities about you that I like. Like, you like tattoos, and you like motorsports, and you like certain things that you're competitive.
Yeah, well, we have things in common.
But that doesn't make you like me.
Right.
If anything, you're 100% more compassionate and loving and caring than I could ever be. But it pushes me to be that.
Right.
Then I'm a different person that pushes you to a certain way. Then at some point we come to a disagreement, or something hard comes up in our life. Mm-hmm. Like something that's like pushes the boundaries of our relationship. Mm-hmm. Something either from the past or something in the future, or we just disagree on something.
Yeah.
And whatever led up to them getting to the point of disagreement or violence or whatever they're claiming, right? Mm-hmm. There could have been a solution, and that's, I think, honesty.
Yeah, definitely.
Or communication. Mm-hmm. At the very first level is communication.
Definitely. Definitely. And, you know, you and I both grew up in situations where when things got hard, there definitely could have been better communication.
100%.
And I think that's one of the things that we've really tried to focus on is no matter how uncomfortable or upsetting or horrible it may be, you have to talk through it. And you don't have to agree. by the end of it, by any means.
No, you have to agree with everything I say.
Oh, my.
That was a lot of dust.
It was coming right at my mouth. I had to just like close my mouth for a second and wait for all that pollen to go away.
I'll finish your sentence. So, no, you have to agree with everything I say. But,
no,
no,
you don't have to agree by the end of it, but you have to at least talk it all through and be willing to listen to everything that the other person has to say, give them their time, and get to a point where you can at least be like, okay, we're going to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
But we're not holding grudges. We're not going to resent each other. We're going to move forward and figure out how to work on whatever this is together. And that is so crucial.
I was a big liar for a long time. And looking at this case or looking at the other cases that keep now continually pop up on my phone, and the reason why we're having this conversation is because it made me rethink, like my past a little bit. Like, man, how could I have handled those situations a little bit differently? And I'm sure a lot of them had to do, too, with the fact that, there was alcohol involved or there was, like, who knows what else involved. So that never makes the situation easy either. So eliminating things like that are helpful in bad situations, or when you're faced with a problem like this is like, okay, well, first off, let's not be drunk and talk about this.
Right. Yeah, definitely don't do that.
or let's do this in an open environment where it's like we're not in a room surrounded by things that we could throw at each other if we start to get super heated. Let's go on the patio and talk. And I say that because I used to watch my family as a kid. God bless you. Bless you.
Thank you. Goodness.
Woo.
All that pollen that just came flying at me.
Oh, yeah. I can see it in your glowing face.
My God.
But it's true, though. I think that those are things that aggravate people, and then people have demons inside of them that turn, and then the next thing you know, you're like, oh, look at this perfect ashtray. Let me throw it at this person because I'm so fired up and angry right now, and they're not listening to me, and they're not hearing me.
And that's not the answer.
But that's not the answer. And that was kind of then started trickling down in my brain, like, oh man, I don't understand what they're going through, but I understand what they're going through. And I think it happens so much daily that it's hard on people. It's really, really taxing because for one, now any person can just go online and just write whatever they want about you.
Right.
You could always, I guess, have written a piece and then put it in the newspaper, but then you'd have to pay for it. You'd have to, there was such a bigger process to this. Now you can just go online and be like, BK sucks.
Right.
Well, why?
Right.
What'd she do? She didn't, you know what? She's just mean. She always tells me mean things. Well, that has no context, but
right.
But then all of a sudden someone reads that and they're like, oh, you know what?
I agree.
You're right. One time I passed her in a hall and
she didn't smile at me.
Her head was down in her phone and she was typing something, but she didn't smile at me. So I know exactly what you're talking about. She is a big, big meanie.
Yeah.
Right? But I know that sounds like that's very not how it goes down, but that is kind of how it goes down.
Well, we're so swayed by opinion and by, the mob mentality.
Well, you're
stuff like that nobody takes the time to think for themselves.
Yeah.
And actually do the research or formulate an opinion in an educated fashion versus just jumping in with what everybody else is thinking and saying just because you don't want to go against the crowd.
Well, I think it's being terrified about being labeled as something that's against the other thing, right? Because, imagine if this, I'll just say Johnny and Amber case, wasn't in the public eye until right now. He'd still be acting.
Yeah.
She'd still be acting.
Yeah.
There'd probably be a whole different, environment around them and their families and their friends and all that stuff. But since it was automatically put out in this magazine and then instantly hit the newsstands and then all this stuff went down, the whole world got involved. And if I can think of kind of pitcher back then,
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody took her side right away.
They did.
And all of a sudden now, though, I think everybody's slowly taking Johnny's side.
It looks like it. Mm-hmm.
Well, but there's the problem. We all hopped on the bandwagon.
And now we're hopping on the bandwagon again.
Now you're hopping on the other bandwagon.
Yeah.
So what bandwagon do you want to be on? And
Right.
and that's what upsets me. I
when
think.
we have no right to have an opinion whatsoever.
You can enjoy the drama. Look, you can enjoy the drama as much as you want.
Yeah.
You can full on. I get it. It's like watching Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
I loved Jerry Springer. I loved like all those talk shows during
Right.
the day. Jenny Jones, all of them. But to 100% put judgment on a person solely based on what you read in a freaking Twitter feed is bonkers to me.
Yeah. Well, it's actually like I thought of this earlier. As everybody knows, my favorite band is Tool, but there's this Tool song called Vicarious.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole song is literally about exactly that, about loving the drama and living through the drama. And like one of the lines is, I own a TV because tragedy thrills me.
Yeah.
Another line is, vicariously I live while the whole world dies. And it's so true, because like watching the dumpster fire that is going on in somebody else's life is A, entertaining,
Yeah.
but B, makes you feel better about yourself.
100%.
So we're just like constantly craving
Mhm.
those types of things because it makes us like, oh, well, I'm better than that person. So
Yeah.
my life isn't as terrible as I think it is.
No, and there's a lot of guys that we've another touching point that we've always hit on is, I've slowly stopped following certain things online and started following other things. And a lot of these mentors I follow, they always have like really positive things to say. Is like, and it's usually they're never talking about another person in a bad way. Not because that they probably don't ever feel bad feelings towards other people or have moments of like, oh, I can't stand that person.
Mm-hmm.
But to waste that time to go out and do that has no benefit to them. You know what I mean? Like if they had for instance, Yelp.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen the South Park Yelp episode.
I have not.
It is.
But I know Yelp reviews are a rabbit hole
hysterical.
you can totally go down.
And again, because it gives people who were, for one, not foodies, who are just people in general,
Mhm.
can go on there and just slam a business
Right.
for whatever they want. Now, I'm sure some of those businesses deserved it. This
I'm
is, again,
sure.
50-50, right?
Right.
I'm taking a very down the middle, and I'm going to say that both sides have a chance to mess up.
Right.
But I think what both sides also have the opportunity to do is either forgive or apologize,
Mm-hmm.
and then move forward,
Right.
right? Like it's
Well,
like,
there's no understanding between people at this point in time. It's becoming more and more prevalent, like, oh, well, you did this and it wronged me in this way,
yeah,
so I have the right to absolutely destroy you.
destroy, yeah, right?
Not just like
Not just make you have a bad day.
complain or like, yeah, make you have a bad day. Like, I am going to completely annihilate you
I want to watch
to
your
the
business
public.
burn.
Yeah, I mean, and it could be something like, oh, you go to this restaurant and that server that you ended up with, well, they are understaffed that day and they are on a double and they're trying to support their 3 kids at home. It's a single mom or whatever, and they have had a horrible day at work.
7
And
other employees didn't show up.
Yeah, and they mess up your order.
Yeah.
Or they forget to ring in your appetizer because they've got 10 other tables that all got seated at the same time that they're having to take care of, and they just forgot.
Yeah.
And so because you had a bad experience one time,
Mm-hmm.
you go online and write this scathing review
Scathing.
that
yeah.
loses that restaurant business
Mm-hmm.
and could also end up resulting in getting that poor person fired
Mm-hmm.
because there's no compassion.
No compassion.
Absolutely zero compassion because I am always right and everybody else is always wrong.
Yeah.
And if you messed up my day, well, I deserve to be compensated for that in some way.
No, that's a really real thing, and I think that's what we see so much. Like, there's the Dodgers pitcher that's going through. Well, and I'm going to say that he and this girl are going through something that is, I don't know about, but it's in the paper, and you're like, well, what side is real? But it almost seems like there's already people taking sides, and they didn't even take it to court.
Yeah, people immediately took sides when it came out, and obviously, I mean, her face looked terrible. It looked very painful.
100%. Like, this isn't. I'm not
regardless of what happened, because we'll never know.
We'll never know.
It's not our business to know. But like, whether she consented to him being physically violent with her when they were hooking up, it doesn't matter. Number one, just don't do that. Just don't do it. Even if they say it's okay to do it, just don't do it.
Well, punching a person in the face is that's not just something you...
That's assault. Well, whether they say punch me in the face or not, it's assault. But regardless of that, like you just said, they declined to prosecute this guy in any way, shape, or form because there was not enough evidence. And yet, the MLB has now suspended him for 2 entire seasons. Yeah. Not just like X number of games, but he's out for 2 whole seasons. Yeah. And granted, I'm sure it violates what he did violates
it does
the league rules of like, hey, you need to be a good person in the public eye. Like, don't get into a fight, don't steal from people, don't get arrested, all that stuff. Like, I understand why they did it because he violated league rules.
There's a responsibility to that.
But it's crazy that this guy's life has played out in the public eye for something that we will never know, that she may have consented to. Mm-hmm. But regardless, whether he was violent towards her and it was assault, that like she did not okay or she did okay, regardless of that. It's just, it's crazy.
Yeah. You right there? You swallow a bee? BK, hold it together. I love your little hand throw at me. Enough. You okay?
No. I'm dying.
We're just going to take a little pause here. Have a nice little laugh. Need me to get you anything else? Want some more water?
I have like a tickle in my throat from the pollen, and I like can't get rid of it. And my eyes, I'm like crying.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. This is too funny.
You're gonna have to cut all this out.
I'm leaving it in. I'm totally leaving it in.
That was really intense.
No, I am sorry that you're going through this right now, but I can go get you something.
There's nothing you can get.
Okay, I'll do the talking for a minute.
Okay, good.
Here, you want some of my Rockstar?
No, thank you.
It has a little more of a coating than the water does. Okay. Enough coughing. Now you're milking this whole deal.
I probably sound so disgusting right now. Like the microphone's picking up all the like sniffles and hacking up a lung, like COVID.
Just go ahead and if you made it this far into this, just fast forward another 2 minutes. You'll be fine.
Oh, I'm dead.
This is so staying in just for the fun of it now. Yeah,
now people are gonna go online and be like, that BK girl, she's disgusting.
Cringe.
An absolute cringe moment. Okay.
I will say though that you are correct though. There's in so many ways, those things that we were watching are just, they're so hard to watch because I personally can't get into them. Not because I don't want to get into them. It's just like I just really don't know the fact. No matter how much digging I do, I'll never know the facts.
Well, it feels wrong to me to formulate an opinion on something that, first of all, is none of my business. But second of all, like you just said, there is no way that we are ever going to know what actually happened.
Yeah. Now, I like the memes, though. Like, I get it. Like, I'm enjoying now seeing things about it because I'm like, kind of interested now. Mm-hmm. I get that the intrigue that we have as humans to like know things is a real deal. So I get that people want to know though. Like people are like, I'm invested because maybe I was invested in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Right.
And I had all of a sudden now then I had this bad taste in my mouth about this guy who was this giant star that I let my kids watch and do all these things and idolize. Well, now I want to know, is he really a bad guy?
Right.
So I get that part of it.
Yeah. And domestic violence, obviously, as we've been talking through all of this, domestic violence is a major prevalent issue.
100%.
And not just against women. Men are victimized by domestic violence all the time. You just don't hear about it as much because there's a stigma that, like, oh, if a girl beats on a guy, well, like, he's not a man. Like, no, that is absolutely not the case. Like, no one should be laying hands or any other object on somebody else and harming them.
Yeah. It really boils down to, I think there's a few things. Respect.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think respect is a giant thing that I've learned the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
And it really boiled down to you and me going through something really, really tough.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize that I was disrespecting in the way that I was. And it took me listening to some Jordan Peterson, some Bishop Barron.
Us talking through
a lot of things. But it really boiled down to the idea that there are morals. And what's crazy is I heard someone talking about this the other day. Have you ever heard of atheism plus?
I have not.
All right. Well, we don't have to get too far into this way. But what it is you can be atheist, but now you can be atheist and have these this moral structure.
Mm-hmm.
The point was, though, is that, well, isn't there moral structure inherently in us because of how we were made, like God made us and with love and all this stuff. And if you believe, I'm not saying that you have to go and all of a sudden be this raging, let's just say Christian, or vice versa. If you're an atheist, you can't have any morals. That's not the conversation. The conversation I'm saying is that we do have love in us.
Yeah.
And the love that we have in us is giant. And listening to Bishop Barron and Jordan Peterson talk about respecting other people isn't just I respect BK because she's my wife, but then I'm going to go turn around and slap her around tonight.
Yeah, that's not being
respectful.
Right.
Or not listening to you, or not taking your opinion and truly valuing it. And I think that those are those terms that we start to
because you don't have to agree with somebody else's opinion in order to value it.
Exactly.
And I think that is one of the huge things wrong with the world right now is people think, well, if you don't think the same way that I think, then I don't have to respect you. You don't have to like somebody, but you need to respect them at the basis level of you are a human and I am a human.
Yeah. Well,
and you have feelings and needs just like I do.
Yeah. And the person that said this wasn't a Christian by any means either. He was just saying in general, when people put in the term made in the eyes of God, we were all equal made in the eyes of God, right? All of a sudden, you kind of are in a way. You're like, okay, well, yeah, maybe we are. Maybe we do have differences, though. But
that's what's beautiful about us is the differences.
Exactly. But that is...
It opens our eyes to things that we could learn.
Allow people to tell you sides of them. I have friends that aren't, religious at all. I have friends that straight up will tell me, there's absolutely zero way you'll ever get me to walk into church. I'm like, cool, awesome. You want to go have a beer and talk? And we do. We have awesome conversations. Yeah. We can sit here and laugh. We can tell all these things. I can tell them about my feelings. They can tell me about their feelings. And I think that again boils down to respect. I respect their opinion on whatever they value because they are a human and they are full of love. Even if maybe what they don't or do believe in doesn't say it on a big giant billboard, doesn't mean that they're wrong.
Right.
And so back to the Johnny and Amber thing. Well, maybe if he or she respected the other person above all things by saying that we're going to get married and do all these things, then they would have been able to talk through some of these harder issues.
Right.
I just don't know. That's the hard part about talking about this because all I can say is that it was a subject that brought up, and then all of a sudden I saw all these other cases, and it's like, well, maybe the one thing that all these people are missing is that respect value.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, it was like we were told when we were going through, when we like convalidated our marriage, which basically for everybody listening, that just means that like we were already married, not in the church, but then we had to go through this process because we wanted to also go through the sacrament of marriage in the Catholic Church because those are our beliefs. But one of the things that we learned while going through that process was the most important thing about being married to each other is willing the good of the other.
I love.
Just like, I don't agree with you, I'm mad at you, whatever the situation is, I still love you and am willing the best of the things for you.
Well, here's an example, like, where, all right, marriage is one side of it. But let's say you're in this, like, relationship, like the picture, for instance. Like, let's just take a hypothetical, like, look at this and say, here's two people engaging in an adult activity, sex, right? Like, fine. If that's what you want to do, you're two legal people who have the right to do this. Now, love, the term love gets thrown around a lot, right? It's like everybody thinks of it as like an emotion. Like, oh, I'm emotional. Like, that person doesn't love me. I'm so sad. Da-da-da-da-da. But if you looked at love in a different sense, like, I love humans in general because they're all different. They're all made, like, to have the opportunity to do, hopefully, whatever they can do in life, right? So you're like, all right, here's this girl that I'm into right now. Maybe I don't love her in the Hallmark card way, but I should respect her, right?
Right.
So, like, even if she told you to punch her in the face during your act of love or sleeping together, which is not sleep,
right?
You would have enough respect for her to be like, no.
Yeah.
Like, that just isn't something another person does because the outcome is not good.
Right.
Like, what if the punch is too hard and I hit you right in the right spot and I give you, like, you had a brain aneurysm that you didn't know about? You die. Yeah. That's not willing the good of the other person, you know? Right. Like, there's a difference between being a little rough, whatever, but then physically hitting someone is just boggles my mind in that regard. And I can't say that I'm perfect, and, you know, I've never been in a heated moment with someone, but I can honestly say, though, that that would never benefit her or you. Like, if you asked me that, I'd be like, no. No. And no matter how upset you got at me, I would still say no. Because it doesn't do anything. And so that's where, like, you're saying willing the good of the other is love. So regardless if you like the person or not, you still would want to hope the best for people. Right. Like, even think about, like, the Yelp review. Okay, so this person that you have no idea who it is, you don't ever have to like them or talk to them again or do anything, but you could show them compassion and love by not going online and just slamming them. Right. Like, that's a way... Now, informing people is different. Very true. Like, if you had a bad experience somewhere, detail the bad experience in light that is like, look, this is the first time I've been to this restaurant. Right. This is the, you know, like, it was busy in there. Paint the picture to where it really is honest. Right. And let people then make their own rational decisions as humans. Right. If you were like, go to a restaurant and the food they serve you had mold on it or maggots in it or like something like that, like, that's a health code violation. You should absolutely go online and be like, hey, I went to this restaurant and they served me food that was actually rancid. Yeah. I do not recommend going here for the good of your health. Yeah. Well, then you could also go out. Now, then the conversation can go even further. It's like, hey, did you say something to the manager? To the manager. Now, right. This is where responsibility takes a funny turn. And I've heard this brought. You can control your emotions, right? You have the choice as a person So, like, let's say the food person goes to the manager. Now, you have one choice to do here. You have two choices, right? You can either be cordial and be like, hey,
like, this is disgusting.
This food came out really gross. I can't eat it, and I don't really feel like eating here anymore. Can you just refund my money?
Yeah.
Like, you could do it in a really
Yeah.
cordial way, right? But everybody likes to make scenes, too. Like,
for sure.
I think a lot of people want to get on World Star.
Yeah, well, and that's the whole, like, I have been wronged.
Yeah. So
now I get to do whatever I want.
I'm going to throw my
retribution for you wronging me in some way.
Yeah, I'm going to throw my plate into the kitchen.
Right.
What you're not doing anything good, though. So, all right, so now if you went about it in a good way and the manager then comes at you as like...
It's like, absolutely not.
Whatever.
Yeah, and they go off on you,
so
and
then again,
they make the situation worse.
But then write the review properly. But don't just like go have a bad experience at a. I think the ones that crack me up are the ones that write bad food experiences at like McDonald's.
like you're at McDonald's.
You're at McDonald's, dude. Like they didn't put lettuce or tomato on your sandwich. Who knows what's happening in those kitchens?
Right.
I don't go to McDonald's for the value of...
It's not gourmet.
And yeah, I'm not going there because I'm like, oh, Bobby Flay is in there slaying in the kitchen at the McDonald's on 281 and, Bitters. Or, like downtown Nashville. You're like, no. Like, I go to McDonald's because it's fast.
And easy.
It will put food in my belly for a little while, and then I go and hopefully find something way better later.
Right.
So to slam something like that, it's like you're not doing anything good. But then I get it. I don't know. Like I might be rambling now, but my whole point to this all is that I think there's a different way to look at people and relationships, strangers, you name it. You go down the thing. It's like I think there's a way for us to better humanity and society and come together as opposed to dividing more. And I think part of that can just be honesty and allowing people to have honest talks, though, and listening.
Yeah.
I need to get better at it every day.
Same.
But I would hope that as I can pass stuff down to the future generations, it's that, it's like, hey, maybe that person did wrong you, but it doesn't make it right for you to go wrong them.
Correct.
Like, that's not okay.
Right.
Because you wouldn't want that done to you.
Right.
You wouldn't want, like, if you made a mistake, you would want the person that you made the mistake with
to give you some grace.
To give you some, a little forgiveness. And that's hard, though. I mean, it takes a lot because you really have to swallow your pride and you really have to boil it down to say, yeah, that sucked what they did. But what's the alternative? We move forward and just have a better life? Or I hold this sick grudge and just make sure that every day of your life is hell.
Right. Yeah.
That wastes your time, wastes the other person's time.
Well, it's a cancer. Bitterness and resentment and everything. It is an absolute cancer. And it does more harm to you than to somebody else.
Yeah, because then you're thinking about it all the time.
Yeah, it eats you up inside.
And maybe that, we've talked about stuff like this before, but it's just such a part of life nowadays, though. You hear it all the time. It's like this person or this party or this group hates this person. You're like, there will always be, unfortunately, hate in this world. It is a sad thing. But hopefully there could be less hate if we're willing to be a little more forgiving.
Yeah.
I don't know. Why?
It's what we try to do every day. It's like my shirt. Kindness is key.
It is. And I 2 years ago, Phil, I loved to hold a grudge. I think it brought, but I didn't have a lot. And I say this with a very, 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 I didn't have a lot going on for me. And I was angry at a lot of things that had happened to me in life. And I was bitter at a lot of things. And so the only thing that really brought me joy was to talk a little shit. Bang on some people that had done me wrong maybe, or that I just didn't like. And and then move forward and think that my life was good, but it always came back around.
For sure. For sure.
Like, it never just stayed over there.
Nope.
And
it never actually makes you feel good either. You feel good maybe like in the moment for a second.
I never did.
And then you're automatically right back to feeling terrible.
Never felt bad. Never felt. I feel so good right now, but I don't focus my attention on anything. Not going to say there's no negativity in my life, because there is.
There's way less.
But it's at a all-time low.
Yeah.
Like, all-time low. And I can attribute to now, on a creative note, I spend a lot of my time being creative.
Yeah.
So that eats up 90% of my brain power.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be trying to figure out how to engage with the little dude more,
mm-hmm.
or how to work on the project more,
mm-hmm.
or how to just have more fun with the listeners on the podcast
mm-hmm.
more. So I don't have time to really have, I don't know, negativity that I want to expel to other people.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, I just want to see people win.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather see more people win around me. That way we don't have to talk about negative things.
Build each
we can
other
just be
up.
like, yo, dude, like, oh, that's awesome. You did this yesterday? No way. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
Yay.
I just... Thinking about this makes me think of the Mike Tyson punch the other day on the plane.
Oh, man. More drama.
Well, it's more drama, but that's the most real 10, 15, 20 years ago. If someone would have wrote something or said something to you the way that they do on Twitter,
mm-hmm.
that's what would have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying Mike is right for punching the guy.
No, assault is wrong, period.
But what he did, though, was the guy finally pushed him to the limit and got punched in the face, right?
Mm-hmm.
That guy is like 90% of like what Twitter is, right? When they go to like hassle someone.
Yeah.
It's relentless.
Relentless.
It's just on, and let's see how many more people can hate this person.
Yeah.
But all those people, put them in the room and put them one-on-one with the person that they're attacking,
mm-hmm.
they would never say it.
Yeah, no, for sure.
They would never say it, because it's just not, when you see someone's emotion like that, you can't, it's hard to be that way towards someone face to face. So that's why, like, if you're in something that is hard, the best thing to do is, again, have a conversation face to face with that person.
Mm-hmm.
Text messaging is I don't know how many arguments have just escalated in my life because I text messaged.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Because there's no context.
But you can't tell what the person, you can't hear the voice, you can't hear the inflections,
you can't see the facial expressions, the body language.
Yeah.
Makes a huge difference.
It is. And so I just, back to Amber and Johnny, I know nothing about it. I know about as much as whatever everyone else is seeing on the TVs and on the things. But my last point to it is that I just really feel that if there was a little more respect, compassion, love,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think part of it too is truth and honesty.
Yeah.
Sticking by, if you're going to say something, stick to it. You know, it's like, it's hard. Like, that's the point though. Like, marriage is hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard. Like, some days I wake up and I'm like,
rude.
Man, BK was mean last night.
Never. Don't you lie to our listeners.
No, but it is, though. It is. With all the temptations in the world and all the things that you could go do, the grass is always greener on the other side.
Yeah.
It just makes life more challenging.
Yeah.
But if you're honest with yourself and honest with the person or the group or yeah, sure, you might hurt a feeling, but you might also save a lot of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, I don't know. All I am is just a person that's been through a lot. So, I mean, maybe that's why it's all hitting me in my old age now. Getting closer to 40.
Getting closer
to 40, you know, like, okay, well, I have two choices in life. Either really start to enjoy it and love life for all the beauty that it is,
mm-hmm.
and truly take in as much love and share as much love as I can,
mm-hmm.
and then hopefully the last, many decades of my life are good, are golden, and it's outside of the money, outside of all the things that we have going on in our lives. waking up and smiling in the morning with you is a beautiful thing, and to know that hopefully we can go through something hard during the day, talk it out at night, and then wake up and start a completely different day with that behind us. I
Clean
think
slate.
is a real thing in life. And, maybe, I don't know, hopefully we can be an example to some people.
Hopefully.
Maybe we can be a voice to some people. I don't know. I don't know what we're doing, but I know that what I don't want to do is revert.
Definitely not.
And I don't want to go backwards in time. And I think by reliving old things, you just end up in a better place.
A badder place.
A badder place.
A worse place.
And I hope that through these times of hardness that people have to go through, that, hopefully that pitcher and that girl, both their situations can evolve out of this.
Grow and move forward.
And hopefully if he did do what he did, he never does it again. Hard lessons are real things. And so, like, that compassion and that forgiveness is big. And so maybe in life that's, I think judges are really interesting. Not to continue this too much longer, but they have a really big responsibility.
They do.
And I think part of that is thinking about it in a deeper sense than just what's superficial, and like how can you help someone change as opposed to just throwing them behind,
just punishing.
Yeah, like there's a real okay, cool. There's punishment, but how can we help these people?
Right.
And I think by helping is by setting examples and forgiving and all that stuff. And so hopefully, like, I don't know where Johnny and Amber are gonna end up.
Yeah.
But hopefully it's in a better place.
Hopefully both of them end up in a better place, one way or another.
Hopefully the Joe Schmoes and the females and the males and of this world that don't have a voice like these people and these celebrities can go through something hard but learn as well. I mean, domestic violence is a real thing, and I grew up in it, and it sucks. It's a hard thing, and one thing that I definitely never want to go through with our children is that,
for sure, we
can argue, we can have disagreements, but just don't ever want to go down that road, because
no.
And that was hard. Hard times.
Hard times.
Well, I think that's I guess now all we do is just wait and see who holds the big check up outside.
I guess we're just gonna wait and see who has the confetti cannons in the end.
I will definitely say, sorry, I keep looking at this little red dog because of what happened last week.
I know.
I will say though that is. I would hold a big check up.
I know you would.
And then I'd be done with it. But okay.
All
right. Well, thank you so much for chatting about this stuff with me, because I mean, as listeners to the show, I feel like we're obligated to have good conversations. We can have fun conversations and we can have silly conversations, but at the same time, I think it's
sometimes you gotta talk about some serious stuff.
And I think this is something serious in the world, and let's just help love more.
Be good to each other.
I think that we can honestly say that the willing the good of the other through love is the best thing that we can do as humans to one 100%. Another.
Just because you dislike somebody doesn't mean you can't love them.
Yeah, you can show that.
You can still show them respect and kindness and compassion.
Yeah,
even if you cannot stand the person, that does not mean you have the right to be horrible to them.
Willing the good of the other is a giant thing in life. So let's just end it on that. I hope that everybody enjoyed this little podcast that we did, and I hope that it shined a light on a dark issues. So let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Drop us a line.
Have a wonderful week.
Leave us a review. I know that we always or sometimes we forget to ask all these things, but make sure to subscribe, leave us a review. Tell us your thoughts. Say hi.
Say hi. And we'll see you soon.
You already bought it, or you went through that coughing fit.
I did. I about died.
We apologize.
I need some more water.
We apologize for that middle section that you had to listen to hacking.
What are you going to do? It was intense.
All right. Much love, everyone. Bottoms up. Cheers.
Cheers.
And see you next week.
See you soon.